The Car Dealer podcast is sponsored by Autotrader. John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with Autotrader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
Autotrader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk.
Welcome back to the Car Dealer podcast. If you haven't listened before, we pick our favourite stories of the week and ask an automotive industry guest to choose whose stories were best. I'm Rebecca Chaplin, and incredibly, I'm back for a third week on the bounce because John this time is on holiday. So he's gone from a work trip to Scotland to ill to on holiday in Vienna. Very exciting. But James Baggott is back with me. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. It's been a rather stressful start to the day, hasn't it? It has been a stressful start to the day. We've had breaking news, we've had tech issues, but we're here, we're recording. It's Friday. Let's get it done.
Lovely. And you've had a generally quite stressful week. I've witnessed you at the dealership and you don't seem to be coping very well with customers at the moment, I'd say.
That's not good, is it, for customers? It's not good for a customer service business, is it? No, it's. I think the general stress of life has probably just all compounded to make everything a little bit harder. The Clever Car Collection is ticking along. I would say it's a little bit quieter than normal, but we had a huge amount of cars turn up this week. We had 20 cars arrive on Monday and Tuesday, so we've now got 45 cars in stock. Part of that is. Yeah, it's a lot, isn't it? Part of that is to do with this Battle of the Buyers that we've got, the Battle of the Buyers video, which is coming out tonight, actually, Friday night, which is the one we did with Carwow, where loads of dealers have bought cars for me. They turned up this week, and I won't give it all away, but some of them were absolute horrors.
One of them the more you buy, the worse they get.
Yeah, they definitely do. What else has been happening this week? Oh, and we have sold a couple of cars, so it's not too bad, but it does feel a little bit quiet at the moment. Loads of inquiries, but nothing really converting. So I'll be interested to hear what our guest has got to say about the market and all that. So we should probably introduce him, shouldn't we?
Let me introduce this week's guest is Chris Green from Regit. And for those of you who might not know what Regit does, and I'm sure many people don't actually realise how much you do, can you give us a little backstory to Regit, Chris?
Yeah, so we're a digital garage for car owners, and thank you for having me, by the way, much appreciated. We're a digital garage for car owners. In short, what we do is take a registration number and an email address for a consumer, create a digital garage which is personalised to them, their vehicle, their ownership. And the four mantras of what we do is, depending on where you are in your car ownership life cycle, we help you buy, we help you sell, we help you maintain, and we keep you legal. So obviously we've got huge amounts, millions of amounts of first-party data on a vehicle and a consumer, just over 4 million records now. So we're really valuable to car manufacturers when it comes to launching cars, generating leads, advertising across the internet, the digital eco-media system, which then funnels down to help dealers sell cars, of course. But our main points of contact are car manufacturers, our data partners, and our advertising agencies in London.
Chris, I've known you a long time. We've kind of crossed paths many times, haven't we, over the years? You really certainly have. You've really always had a real handle on the motor trade. You've got great contacts, haven't you? I mean, what are you hearing at the moment? You're out there talking to these dealers, manufacturers all the time. What's the general feeling about the industry at the moment?
It's a question that we could probably debate and talk about in so many different ways, but I think we are big on really listening to manufacturers. I attend a lot of events, as you know, yours last week, which was fantastic, by the way. Absolutely loved it. Got some business from it, which is always nice. But I think, listening to what the problems are and trying to come up with a part solution in some way is really good at what we do. And a lot of what we're hearing are things like, if you listen to Lisa Brankin from Ford, who I've listened to on stage many times, the biggest problems they've got is they cannot sell an electric vehicle to somebody who doesn't have a driveway, even generational buyers of Ford. So they might have had Fords right through the family, parents, grandparents, sons, sisters, brothers, etc. But if they've not got a driveway, they cannot sell an electric car to someone without a driveway. So I think when you look at that, and we've probably got 45% of homeowners in the UK without a drive, that's a massive problem for car manufacturers and dealers. Throw in the ZEV mandate, as we all know, big contentious issue. Government doesn't seem to be bringing any sort of decision making or policy change or even conversations sooner than what we would like. So again, a huge problem for car manufacturers. So they're a couple of the biggest things. I think one of the other things as well, which people don't realise, is cars are better than they've ever been in some regards, and people are hanging on to their cars longer. I think they're looking at the market. They're doing less miles with work from home. The technology is good. The reliability is good. You can buy a warranty for a used car quite easy and quite freely if you want to hang on. And the SMMT stats say that people are hanging on to their cars longer, and we are seeing that. So I think that can have an effect on the market as well, purely and simply because they don't know about the transition to electric, whether it works for them, whether it's range anxiety, whether it's cost barrier. So they might hang on to that car a little bit longer.
I've seen on your posts on LinkedIn that you've recently dived into the world of electric, haven't you? Would it be fair to say you've had some challenges?
Yeah. So I need to be fairly sensible in some ways. I like a rant and a rave, James. I think you know that. Right?
Well, I mean, that's what the podcast's for. So go.
And I think that as well. I'm in a bit of a position where I'm a founder and a CEO of a independent business. I don't need to toe the line from a corporate PLC perspective like some of the people that you have on here. So I can be fairly honest with my views and opinions. But I got a Polestar 4. I think if you look at sort of like my driveway's got 2 Chinese cars on it at this moment in time. It's got a JQ7 hybrid. It's got a Polestar 4 full EV. And I've driven German cars for, as you know, 35 years or whatever it is. Always got them on a PCP, whether it's BMW, Mercedes. And the simple fact is, to convert to full electric, to stay with those brands was just too expensive. In terms of the payment per month, it was just too expensive. And to transition to an EV with salary sacrifice being available was I wouldn't say it was an easy switch. I took quite a long time to think about it, 12 months of being in market really. So I think one of the other challenges is, I think this terminology of people buy cars within a few weeks now, I think they take a lot longer to research. I think you need to nurture people down the funnel. I think there's a lot of choice now, and there's a lot of decisions to be made, and it takes a lot longer. So when I got this Polestar 4, charging from home, fantastic. Octopus charging, charge overnight. But again, you're only looking at 7 kilowatt charging. Takes about 15 hours to make sure that it's viable from a cost perspective. Can cost you £7 or £8. But the minute you get on a long journey, there's a real disconnect. There's a real disconnect depending on where you are in the country on charging your electric vehicle. And I'm talking about convenience. I'm talking about speed. I'm talking about not having to wait around while people are queuing for electric chargers or they're full. And cost, 89 pence a kilowatt, which can be dearer than, maybe not at this moment in time, but historically can be dearer than petrol or diesel. And I've just found the disconnect between reliability, and I have mentioned GridServe only because they tend to dominate the motorway service areas. The super hubs, which are now we're seeing a little bit more of. I used one in Exeter last week. They're fantastic. 15, 20 super speed chargers. You can be in there for 20 minutes, get a quick coffee and you're gone. But some of the older stuff and the historical stuff where there's only a couple of chargers, they tend to be broken. The experience is not great. The maintenance of them is not great. If they do work, they tend to be full because there's only a couple of them. So it can be incredibly frustrating and can add on an hour and a half to your journey during the day, which is not something I've really got the time to do. So I feel there's a huge disconnect between the quality of charging across the country. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
Are you glad you changed from petrol, diesel to electric? All things considered?
I wish I'd have got a hybrid. Yeah, I wish I'd have got a hybrid, yeah. And I'll say that with honesty. The car is incredible, I have to say. The car is, I mean, we like a bit of speed in automotive, don't we? It's the fastest car I've ever driven or owned. It's ridiculously quick. Ridiculously, but that's not everything, as we know. So to get the performance is incredible. The tech can be a touch unreliable at times. You have to reboot a few times. You can be on a 50 stretch and it'll tell you you're in a 30 and things like that. So I don't think the tech is as good as some people make out. I think the design of the car, the build quality of the car, how it looks is fantastic. I get stopped in car parks, people going, "Oh my God, what's that? It's beautiful," and it really is. And I love the car. I just don't love long journeys. It's challenging. It can be challenging. You've got a bit of planning and preparation to do, but it doesn't always work out. And I think where I get frustrated is, and I'm going to use the term, and they'll hate me for it because they come for me on LinkedIn, the EV evangelists talk nonsense. They'll tell you they've never had a charging problem. They'll tell you they've never visited one that's never broken down. They'll ridicule the likes of me and other people, as they call it, Dave in the pub and all the rest of it. But there is some serious challenges out there, and I don't think the EV evangelists are fair, and I don't think that they're as honest as they could be. Most of them are selling salary sacrifice, right? So they're going to be a little bit biased, aren't they? Because effectively that's how they're earning their money.
With all that in mind, do you think the 2030 ban will happen?
No, I don't. I think it'll get extended. I genuinely do. Certainly if another government comes in anyway, but no, I don't think it will. I can't see, we're talking the last couple of days with the war, which has developed over in Iran, the business analysts, if you read, the likes of City AM and the FT and things like that, they're now talking about us going into probably one of the worst recessions potentially. Is it scaremongering? Is it clickbait? We all know they love a bit of clickbait. We don't know. Only we'll see what develops. But if we do, that transition to EV is going to become even harder. And I think government, in terms of policy and legislation, somebody is going to have to make a hard decision that might not be popular with some people, will be incredibly popular, I think, with dealer groups in the industry. But the ZEV mandate needs looking at, and I don't think 2030 will happen. I think it'll get extended again. I do.
Chris, am I right in thinking you started your career in car dealerships?
Yeah. I'm a car salesman, James. Right? You've gone from media to being a car salesman. I've gone from car salesman into media.
We're like looking in a mirror, yeah. When you look at how car dealers do things now and how you used to do it, I mean, what are the biggest differences?
I mean, we were obviously back then. You're talking. It feels like a former life for me now. It's probably when was I when I left? I was 29 when I left BMW, and years before that, I was Volkswagen, Audi, Smith Knight Fay Group. Ian Anthony BMW. I've worked for Vauxhall, I've worked for Ford, I've worked for Mitsubishi, but I was 29, 30 then, so it was just coming up to the millennium when I'd left. So I've been out of the mix for probably 25 years or so. But I mean, we were very paper and pen based back then. Let's be right. We didn't have the kind of digital technology. The websites didn't even exist back then. It was starting to become a thing. But I was a bit of an early adopter to the internet. And when my last job at BMW, we would get dial-up internet inquiries coming from the likes of London and Scotland, and some of the older guys there would be terrified of dealing with them. I embraced them. I ended up selling cars, driving to the likes of Elgin in BMW M3s, dropping them off, delivering them, flying home. I was like 28, 29, dropping cars off in London, in Wales, in Ireland, because BMW used cars back then, especially the M-powered stuff, they were very unique, particular colours, particular specs, particular mileages. And they couldn't find that kind of stock in some of these remote areas. So I would drive and deliver these cars everywhere. And I was earning fortunes, absolute fortunes. If I was to quote the number now, I was earning probably something like back 25 years ago, 60 grand a year, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money back then, working for BMW. So became a really adopter of the internet and internet leads and really smashed it. And then that sort of like had a few light bulb moments going off for me in terms of how the industry, I think, was developing. So I was a really early adopter of the internet.
What made you change? What made you change into doing media?
So there's always like an evolvement there's always a time or a period of things evolving. I think when I left BMW, I had a little bit of cash in the bank. I just had my little boy Josh, who's 26 now, and it was just wanting to spend a bit more time with him. So it turned into trading a few cars from home, retailing a few cars from home, having a couple of used car pitches, then having a couple of drive-through car washes, one in Quick Save car park in Stockport, and all of a sudden I had a car pitch, I had car washes, I was trading cars, and I had a nice little business, and then got offered the chance to sell it all to a customer who was retiring from the post office, I think, if I remember. So sold all that as a going concern kind of thing, and then teamed up with Terry Hogan, who I used to work with back at Smith Knight Fay, and effectively he wanted to start selling cars on the internet. I was already a bit of an adopter of that, and that's how we sort of like joined forces. We started trading and buying and retailing cars on the internet. We did a bit of what I would call kazoo new car stuff back then, like 25 years ago, but it was a little bit difficult to get buy-in from dealer groups and car manufacturers, so that was a little challenging. But we probably had a kazoo type business 25, 30 years ago. And then obviously we bought the domain motoring.co.uk, which we still own now. And I think we met shortly after that, didn't we? I think you were building Car Dealer, we were sort of like building motoring.co.uk. We sort of like tried to help each other out as much as we can. We've had some similar journeys, I feel, so we've always had this relationship where we could bond in some ways. And then, realised that actually trying to launch a classified website to rival the likes of Autotrader, as we've seen them come and go plenty over the years, was a massive challenge in itself. And then new car lead generation, dealing with advertising agencies and manufacturers, we felt was probably something that we could do, we could exploit. You weren't over-reliant on dealers for money. I think trying to build a business around dealer groups and advertising money now, and even over many years, I think everyone's tried, everyone's pretty much failed. They're still the number one Autotrader. Perhaps they're suffering some challenges now, which we can see. With dealers pulling off. Dealers are becoming a little bit more self-sufficient, but they're still the number one. They're still the most profitable by an absolute country mile. So moving away from trying to be a classified website was probably the best decision we ever made. And we still do a little bit of that. We still do a bit of that. But our big play is automotive first-party data and helping manufacturers and ad agencies with car launches across buying, selling and maintaining. Obviously the after sales play is a big play for us as well.
So, I mean, you're very close to the lead side of this industry, aren't you? So, and that really is the take on what the demand is like out there at the moment. You've touched on it. You know, we've got war in Iran at the moment. I was reading this morning, consumer confidence is tanking. You've got the oil price fluctuating, but incredibly volatile at the moment. What's happening to leads out there at the moment? Because I speak to some dealers and they say, "Oh, it's still okay." Others are saying it's absolutely dropped off a cliff. I mean, what are you seeing from your part?
Well, that's an interesting one because we had to do a little pivot in the last 12 months. So we were, up until HMRC's unfortunate demise, we were a relatively large lead generation partner for them. Before that, it was motors.co.uk under the guidance of Phil for many years, Phil Jones, who I'm extremely close to today. We moved from motors during the pandemic to HayCar. They were obviously trying to grow exponentially, build that brand, get the traction, the momentum, you know, with all respect to HayCar, and I'll be hugely grateful to them for the work that we did with them for many years. But there's a classic example of backed by VWFS, backed by Daimler at one point, backed by Allianz at one point. I mean, the kind of backers that they had and the kind of money that went into that business, and they couldn't even rival Autotrader. So and why was it? Was it the business model? Was it the strategy? Maybe, but that was a very reliant lead gen model, which I think that in times of huge numbers and in times of huge demand, I think, and we're not in volatility and we're not in wars and we're not potentially seeing recessions, those lead generation models work really well. I think when stock becomes a little bit in short supply, I think when consumer confidence drops off, I think when numbers start to drop off, all of a sudden dealers don't need those leads, so they won't pay for them. So if you've got a business model that's completely reliant on lead generation for dealers, going back to my point before, that dealer model becomes quite unsustainable, or that business model becomes quite unsustainable. So we are big into the lead gen, but as you know, James, we've also got 4 or 5 other revenue streams which serve us very well in times like this. Certainly the data revenue stream with the likes of Sky and things like that. But it has dropped off. It has dropped off. And interestingly, we could never replace HayCar. There wasn't a demand from any other publisher or any other classified website to actually take the kind of volume of leads that we could deliver, so to speak. So we've had to pivot in some ways.
Do you think that what we're seeing at the moment is causing problems in the car market? Do you think people are holding off purchasing?
Yeah, I think, we talked about earlier on the stats are there from the SMMT, and we see it ourselves that I think consumers are holding onto cars longer. I think that change cycle is now possibly longer. I probably held on to my Mercedes longer than I probably would have done before I got the Polestar 4. Again, it took me a year to decide what to do, and it eventually went all in on EV because the deal was incredible. What I will say is the Polestar 4 deal was incredible. And I think that there's just so many different mixes of things, isn't there? I think there's confusion. There's a lack of education with consumers. They're holding onto cars longer. It's expensive to live in the UK currently, whether it's food, whether it's energy. If you look at the mortgage rate situation at this moment in time, where we were probably looking at, inflation levelling off, mortgage rates coming down. The Bank of England was talking about probably another 2 mortgage rate drops in the next 6 months. Yeah. Is that going to happen now? That's huge uncertainty. You're probably not going to go and change your car. You're probably not going to buy another car. You're certainly not going to move to electric. You're just going to hang on that bit longer and just wait for the stability that you're looking for. It's about survival. The thing I realised about consumers over the years is we all care about the environment. We all care about the environment. But when it comes between a choice between the environment and survival, it's always survival. Always.
It's it just feels incredibly frustrating at the moment. We've got this horrendous situation in the Middle East, and I just think when I look at it from the insulated view of the UK motor industry, which obviously I have to do, we seem to have had so many different issues that keep on kicking this industry and giving it and making the job really, really hard. It felt like at the start of this year we were just sort of getting back to normality. I remember doing a few podcasts at the start of this year, people talking about, oh, it's going to be a normal year. I mean, and now look what's happened. I mean, it's lucky that the automotive industry is run by a lot of resilient people, isn't it? Because you'd just be tearing your hair out.
Yeah, I love that word. Many people ask me, obviously we've been through some incredible challenges as a business, as an SME over the years. You know, raising cash is tough, making profit is tough, surviving things like COVID is tough. Everybody's got their own story. You know, we were virtually a bankrupt business after COVID, you know, so we had to rebuild, hence the data strategy that we came up with, which has been incredibly successful and incredibly profitable for us. So we're in a really good place at this moment in time as a business. But I'll take us back before COVID, James. If you remember, diesel was, before COVID, was really starting to get a really hard time. You know, we're talking 8-9 years ago now. You know, back in the days of the sort of like, I remember we were all talking about 3.5 million new car registrations. Do you ever remember that? Yeah. You know, probably 8-9 years ago, it was like we're on the traction for 3.5 million new car registrations. You know, we're nowhere near that, and probably would never ever get back to anywhere near that again. But I think the volatility and the ups and downs that our industry has had through various different governments, through COVID. I think the only one I could probably compare, and it really resonated with me last week, and I really liked him as well. He was really honest. Ennis, was it Richard Ennis?
Yes, from
Ennis on stage.
Yes,
I thought he was fun. I thought the honesty that he was sat next to Sam Luscombe, wasn't he, on the panel?
Yes.
I thought the honesty that he came up with, but he came up with a comparison that I've been comparing myself, which is automotive is quite similar to hospitality at this moment in time, with the volatility, the ups and downs, the lack of support, the punishment that it's receiving from this government. I think is very similar to the punishment we're receiving from this government and the historical governments as well. So the resilience is my favourite word. I think it's a skill. I think it's a skill that is honed and honed and honed over time, you know, and people say to me, oh, how the hell as a business owner have you got through the last years with when you're not backed by big businesses? And I'm really resilient. My team are really resilient. Luckily, I've got a resilient investor as well, which always helps. But I think it runs through automotive DNA. I think it really, really does. But I think that the next few years, if we don't see some dramatic changes, I'm not sure resilience will get a lot of them through. I saw Robert Forrester yesterday repost, was it the former managing director of Vauxhall? I've forgotten his name. His name escapes me.
Tim
and
Tozer,
reposted it. Yeah, that's it. And says we need to listen to this guy. And he said, in 5 years' time, on the trend and traction we've got, we will not have an automotive industry in the UK. And I don't think I've ever been hit so hard reading one line reposted by Robert Forrester. It might be a little bit of an extreme quote in some ways, but I think it's the kind of quote that we have to sit up and take notice of. I really, really do. I really do. And I think this government does. And they're the kind of people that this government needs to start listening to.
I mean, on the positive side, it's nearly Easter, so we'll have 4 days off. So we've got to look forward to something, haven't we? Right, Chris, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
With 49 cars in stock, you're not having an Easter, mate.
Funnily enough, I was talking to Joe about our Easter opening hours this morning. I'm not looking forward to that. Anyway, we should probably do some stories, Rebecca.
Attention Car Dealer podcast listeners. Do you want a better, quicker, more profitable way of trading out of your part exchanges or overage stock? List your cars on DealerWay today and connect with over 3,000 vetted trade buyers actively looking for vehicles. No hidden fees, no hassle. Start your own custom auctions from your desk or the palm of your hand in our game-changing app, or advertise your stock on quick, easy, buy it now listings to our eager buyers who are waiting to quickly acquire vehicles. What are you waiting for? Join DealerWay today at dealerway.co.uk and streamline your disposals.
John, have you ever wondered why I, along with 14,000 other dealers, choose to partner with Autotrader?
Well, actually,
I didn't think so. I'll tell you anyway. With more than 84 million consumer visits every month, it connects us with more engaged car buyers and delivers more deals than anyone else in the UK. And now, with the launch of Buying Signals, we'll have brand new insights on every deal, showing how likely a customer is to buy the car they're interested in. Plus, as someone who set out to use AI and data as much as possible in my business, I've found their technology, data, and tools genuinely invaluable. But when I do get stuck,
which is, let's face it, most of the time,
Autotrader is always on hand and committed to supporting us to get the very best from our package. To find out how they can help you, visit trade.autotrader.co.uk. Now, back to the podcast.
Yes, let me quickly explain how it's going to work. James and I have both chosen our favourite stories that have appeared on Car Dealer this week, and we don't know what each other have chosen. We're going to take it in turns to reveal our stories and have a chat about each. And at the end, Chris is going to have the final say on who is the winner and had the best stories. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening to and subscribe or follow wherever that is. James, you won last week, so you can go first. And I'm pretty sure I know who you're going to choose.
Can I just start with a thank you, because I forgot to say this at the start of the podcast. I'd just like to thank one of our listeners, Ken, who called me after listening to this podcast for a long time, and on Monday he brought us down his car to sell all the way from Croydon. He's used to be in the motor trade, long retired, has always listened to this podcast, and he brought us his car because he wanted to make sure it went to us. So thank you very much to him. Very nice. So if you've got a car to sell us, please get in touch. Anyway, first story. Let me go with one that I have published on my Substack today. So this is an exclusive on my Substack, which you can... there's lots of stuff to choose. But this is, you can find it on my Substack, which is cardealer.substack.com. And I've written about Cargiant. So you remember... 2 weeks ago, we broke the news that Cargiant, one of the most profitable used car supermarkets in the UK, had started redundancy consultations with its staff. Now, this is a business that is based in a very large site in West London on Old Oak Common, Park Royal. And that was valued, that site, at £98 million in its most recent set of accounts. Which is a huge sum of money. And that is because it's right next to a planned HS2 interchange. Now, the value of this property has gone up and down in the accounts over the years, but it seems that now the billionaire owner, Jeffrey Warren, has decided that perhaps it could be time to cash out. And that business has started redundancy consultations with all of its staff. Now, the update that I've had this week is some of the staff members have been in touch with me anonymously to let me know what's happening in those consultations. They've been told, staff, that April the 24th is D-Day for Cargiant. They will be deciding at that point in time whether to close the business or carry on. They're actively looking for a buyer for that business, or deciding what they do in the future, whether it's sell the land or sell the business or sell them both together. Apparently, at this point in time, none of those discussions that they've had with anybody has come to any fruition. And this employee has told me that they were basically particularly upset about how this has been dealt with. They said at Christmas people were made redundant. They were told nothing was going to happen, no more redundancies, and then this sideswiped them. So there's a lot of affected people in that business. They seem to be winding down the number of cars they've got. Last time we spoke about this, they had 384 cars listed. As of this morning, they had 242 on the site. Now, this is a business that used to run with 2,000 cars in stock plus. So it says a lot that they're now down to just over 200 cars. I did contact Cargiant for a comment. They said no final decisions had been made. They reiterated their previous statements that Cargiant is currently engaged in a formal collective consultation process with employees in relation to the proposals that may affect the future structure of the business. No final decisions have been made at this stage. But it's looking increasingly not like good news from what those people in that business are being told, and what they're assuming, what they're hearing on the rumour mill. It doesn't look good. I mean, we know car supermarkets have had a tough time over the years. We've talked at length about stock shortages that are coming. There's a number of car supermarkets that reduced their size. We've seen closures. Peter Vardy's business. We saw Pendragon's business close. So it is difficult. It is difficult out there at the moment, and perhaps Cargiant's owners have just decided now's the time to cash in. But we'll find out on April the 24th. So yeah, quite upsetting news. Chris, do you know the Cargiant business? Have you ever been there?
Yeah, no, I obviously I know the business. They do a lot of they did do a lot of tube advertising. So I think they tend to be a bit more southern based, don't they, historically, than they have northern based. So never been to a site, don't know the founders, don't know the owners. Obviously, always been big on sort of like outdoor advertising. But I think you might be right.
On the used car supermarkets, what's your take on that? I mean, they are struggling.
I'm sort of like with you with what you just said. I think the owners of these businesses, I think they're looking at the future is what they're doing. I think they're looking at what does it look like to navigate the next 4 or 5 years, and how much is it going to cost us? What will the P&L look like? What does profitability look like? What does sourcing stock look like? I think, these guys are not stupid. They've built businesses, incredible businesses over many, many years. And I think that you've got to take a view, haven't you? And I think if you can exit a business currently for an amount of money, which probably you don't want to devalue over the next 4 or 5 years' time, then it makes sense to do that. I think, obviously, unfortunately, the sad thing is the amount of redundancies that will be obviously taking place. We mentioned hospitality before, the amount of businesses that are closing in hospitality. We keep referring back to this government, but we've got to look at what unemployment looks like in the next 4 or 5 years. We've got AI being talked about. We've got dealerships potentially closing. We've got hospitality on its knees. And if they can exit that business now, and it looks like the right thing to do, and they'll have big financial advisors, they'll have big analysts on the business, and they're probably telling them it's the right thing to do. And in some ways, you can't blame them. Unfortunately, there's redundancies and people leaving livelihoods, which is incredibly sad.
Yeah, definitely. Right, Becca, move us on.
I am going to go for one that's like vaguely positive. I think that's the best I can do this week, is vaguely positive, which is the news about Lamborghini. Obviously, this is going to make a big impact to the market. Lamborghini sales were up, but margin pressures meant that margins were down. And this sort of relates to a story I used last week, which Bentley obviously haven't had very good results, and they're making lots of people redundant. And I think this is interesting because, again, we're seeing these brands that were sort of like the last year were the big success stories of, well, look, we can do it. And this year it's not doing so well because of this US pressure around tariffs. And it's also sort of sparked in my mind about the brands that have thought, yes, we'll do that too. Similar things like Jag reinventing themselves and sort of putting all their eggs in the US basket because they think they can make lots of money over there. And now we're seeing that model isn't quite working. So I just think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next year and whether that model does still work or whether it's going to hit these businesses harder than and sort of see things spiral. I don't know what you think.
I mean, it's not all bad news for Lamborghini, is it? I mean, they're
They
operating.
made a lot of money still.
Was still 768 million euros of operating profit. I mean, that's not to be sniffed at, is it?
No,
I mean,
and maybe they're in a sweet spot where their vehicles aren't horrendously expensive. Sort of. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. No, I get it.
Attainable luxury. If you've got that much money.
Attainable luxury. Well, I mean, yeah.
It's not Rolls Royce level, is it?
I mean, attainable luxury for people like Chris.
Haven't they been more profitable? I think I was reading yesterday. I only skipped through it, but haven't they been more profitable than Porsche this year for the first time ever, or something? I was reading. That's quite a big statement, right? Quite a big win for them.
Which wouldn't back up my attainable luxury, would it? Because Porsche would be more attainable than a Lamborghini.
True.
Interesting, though.
Yeah, I've literally nothing to add on that, so I'm going to move us on to another story. And I'd like to talk about breaking news that came out this morning about Autotrader. Now, Autotrader has had, well, we can only say a very tough time over the last few months. There's been the deal builder fallout, then price rises, and a lot of negative headlines. I mean, it felt like the business was sort of coming out of that, and then this morning they're hit with something else. So the CMA has launched an investigation, and Autotrader are part of this. It's an investigation into 5 companies: Autotrader, Just Eat, Dignity, FIFO, which is the online reviews provider used by Autotrader, and Pasta Evangelist. What on earth is Pasta Evangelist? Have you got any idea?
Restaurant.
Is it? It's a restaurant. Thank you.
Got to be London. Listen, I think there's one in Borough Market, so got to be London based. Yeah.
Becky, I'll let you Google that because I haven't done it because I was focusing on the
fresh pants. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
It's fresh pasta delivered. I thought I recognised that name, but
okay.
Right.
I mean, for someone who hates pasta, that's no surprise. I don't know anything about them. But anyway, this investigation, which Autotrader is part of, is looking at what they, and I quote, fake or misleading online reviews. Now, there are a number of different parts to this investigation that the CMA has launched. They say they've not reached any conclusions about whether these companies have broken the law. The regulator has said it was investigating whether a number of 1-star reviews were not published on Autotrader's platform and were not counted towards star ratings, therefore denying consumers a fully rounded picture of other customers' experiences. Now, it's understood the used car marketplace will strongly deny these allegations and point out that 1-star reviews are posted regularly on dealer profiles. Sarah Cardell, the chief executive of the CMA, said fake reviews strike at the heart of consumer trust, with many of us worrying about misleading content when looking at reviews online. We've given businesses the time to get things right. Now we're deploying our new powers to tackle some of the most harmful practices head on. Now, it's very difficult for Autotrader on this front to actually speak about it. They have issued a statement, but the investigation is active. That statement says, We note that the CMA, exercising its new direct consumer enforcement powers, has today announced investigation into a number of companies, including Autotrader and our third-party moderator in relation to online consumer reviews. We endeavour always to operate as a responsible and compliant business and will cooperate fully with the CMA's investigation. So this investigation is what the CMA calls a formal consumer protection enforcement case. Very wordy. And they're looking at those 5 companies as a result. Now, there are, as I mentioned, lots of different facets to this, lots of different parts that they're investigating, and Autotrader is wrapped up into part of this full CMA investigation. It will be interesting to see what comes off the back of it. I mean, speaking personally, we use the Autotrader platform and the FIFO reviews. We send out those reviews to all of our customers. Luckily, we offer customers good service. We really try hard to look after them. We're very proud of the 5-star reviews that we've got. But I know, just like anybody else, that if I got a 1-star review, it will be posted on the site. So I'm not quite sure what this investigation is all about. I mean, I've seen plenty of 1-star reviews, 2-star, 3-star reviews on many car dealer profiles on Autotrader. I mean, when we do our used car awards judging, we take into account Autotrader star reviews and Google's. So we look at them in detail. We read
I think
them.
also, sorry, a few points on this. I think either way, it's not good for the industry and it's not good for Autotrader if this becomes wider knowledge, because all it does is create distrust of car dealers and Autotrader's platform. But like, as you say, the Autotrader even say to, I know that people I talk to where they've only got 5-star reviews, and Autotrader say to them that people don't genuinely trust if you've only got 5-star reviews. They like to see a few 4 and 3s where you fix the problem, because that makes them believe that this is, you're genuinely doing a good service. So it does seem strange to me that they would want to remove, unless it is like I'm sure FIFO and Autotrader do work to sort of filter out ones which are just junk.
Well, the other thing I would say on this is I really like the FIFO platform, because you can send a direct request via the Autotrader portal to that customer that you've sold the car for, to their name and their email address. What I don't like about it, and what I don't like about Google and some of these other platforms, is that anybody can just go on, log on, and post a review. Now, like looking in one of the WhatsApp groups that I'm in this morning with some dealers, yet again, one of those, because there's a lot of them in that group that are on YouTube, one of them had received another 1-star negative review from a customer they've never sold a car to. Now, that can happen very easily if you've got an open platform that anybody can just jump on and review. So I think I actually like the FIFO one for the most part, because you can invite the customer to send you a review. What I'd rather see is them actually remove the ability to just go on there and review the business. I don't think that should be allowed. If you're not a customer, if you can't prove that you've been a customer of that business, you shouldn't be allowed to review it. Do you not think? I mean, it's like, why should anybody just be able to, one online warrior go on and leave you a negative review? That's not fair.
Doesn't give full customer experience, though, does it?
No. I'd not seen that news this morning, actually. That's the first I've heard. But I mean, you can see why Just Eat could get a 1-star review, right? Yeah, you could see why I think the Evangelist pasta business could potentially get a 1-star review if your food arrives damaged or
the fact it turns up and it's pasta. Yeah, and you hate pasta.
But I'm sort of like wondering why Autotrader would get a 1-star review. And I think that the correlation to that might be, if someone's found the car on Autotrader, which is bought from a dealer, then I think sometimes a consumer might be confused. If it was a bad car and they'd had a bad experience from that dealer, as much as you'd be unhappy with the dealer, would some customers be also unhappy with Autotrader on the fact that they found the car on Autotrader?
It's the dealers, Chris. I think it's the dealer profiles and the reviews that and the way, because Autotrader uses FIFO, which is another part of this investigation.
Right.
I mean, I think what they're focusing on is whether these 1-star reviews were not published on the platform, and I just cannot believe that's the case. I mean, how on earth could they be stopped? That's the thing. I mean, if they're fake reviews, these platforms absolutely should remove them. If they can't, so maybe that's where this has been caught up. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
My understanding of CMA as well is that you have to. Well, I don't know for certain, but I thought that you had to report to the CMA that you think there's wrongdoing going on, and then they will have to have like a certain number before they see, oh, this is something genuinely going on. So my wonder is, are people leaving 1-star reviews and they're not appearing on the platform, and that's why they're complaining?
You've taken the words out of my mouth, actually. I was just about to say this must have been a case and an investigation that's potentially been built up over a long period of time by people complaining that their reviews are not being posted. So this is not something that you just launch an investigation in a week or so. This is probably something that's been building up over a long period of time, and they've got to a point where they feel they've got enough to investigate.
This investigation looked at 100, more than 100 companies, apparently, as CMA said, and found 54 of them, they said, were potentially non-compliant. But it's named these 5 in its announcement today. So, yeah, it's it will be interesting to see how this one plays out. and yeah, a bit of a headache for Autotrader that they probably don't need. Becca, I will let you move us on though.
Oh God, I haven't chosen the next story. What was on my list? Oh, I'm going to go for your VAT scam video, which I thought was very interesting, and people should go and watch it if they have not watched it yet. But this is the news that James was sent a letter and then he made a long video about it.
I mean, Christ, you made that sound really boring.
Yeah. That's basically it. I think if you see the picture of you looking angrily at the letter as well, basically you got some post, you weren't very happy about it, so you interviewed someone at Trading Stand or HMRC, and they told you it's not real anyway.
The face that's in that thumbnail is what my dad used to do when he got my school report. It was like a really angry look as he read it. Yeah. It was a bit scary getting that letter.
I can't remember exactly what the letter said, but you quickly thought this doesn't add up. Oh, you don't need to read it out to me.
No, I was just looking for the letter.
It was basically telling you that you were owed money, wasn't it?
No, it said it said I need to go online and make a VAT repayment allowance notification, and it looked and felt so real. This is the thing; it had the HMRC logo on it. The envelope it turned up on had a PO box number stamped on it and stuff. And I googled that and found it was connected to HMRC. It had the normal telephone number, it had the normal website address, but the real telltale thing that I should have noticed. And I only noticed it because I uploaded the letter to ChatGPT, was that the web address it was sending me to was hmrc.autos, which is obviously not a gov.uk domain. But what they did, I followed this in the video. You can see the process. I talk about what the letter contains, and then I follow that link and see what they were trying to get. And they wanted a lot of information, a lot of personal information, my government gateway ID, and VAT registration details. And so I spoke to an HMRC fraud investigator for that video and that story that's on the website. And they basically told me that this is a known fraud, which is called a VAT hijack, which is something I'd never heard of. And what they do is they take control of your VAT number and your VAT account, and they submit fraudulent returns, and they change the bank details, and they pocket the money that's coming back from HMRC. The problem with it, as a business owner, is it's not simple as just ringing HMRC up and saying someone's nicked my VAT number. You have to prove it, and you can imagine that's a very, very difficult thing to do. And just by following the details on that letter, which looked very real, I mean, it caught me out. I mean, I'm not a VAT expert, and that's why I have an accountant. And if it wasn't for ChatGPT, I would definitely have been caught out, because it was a Friday night. I just got home from work. I was sideswiped by it, really. And it felt and looked very real. And I just think this one was specifically targeting car dealers. It said on the letter that they were investigating the auto industry. And since I posted that story in the video, I've had a lot of dealers be in touch saying they've had the same letter. So you've got to be so careful. You've got to be so careful when you're logging onto these websites. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock. But yes, you can go and watch my video about a letter on the YouTube channel now.
It's on my radar. Yeah,
I mean, it was scary, Chris.
Honestly, James, I feel you. You know, we're no dummies by any means, right? You know, we've been around the block a little bit, and navigating scams and online fraud now is massive. We've been doing a lot of stuff with DocuSign, you know, the last couple of years on various different contracts and stuff. And I don't know if there's a correlation to it, but I've had huge amounts of fraudulent DocuSign stuff coming through, and it looks so real. But when you're in the middle of actual contract stuff utilizing DocuSign, you think it's real, and you open it up and it's asking for all sorts of personal and banking information from you, and you're a bit like, hang on a minute. I've even had to ring my FD and say, Stephen, is this part of it? And he's gone, no, not at all. Like, I've, you know, and navigating it is hard. So I think for elderly people and people who are a little bit naive, that they are that good now They are that good that they just have it as a numbers game, don't they? Let's send 1,000 out and hope that we get a handful, which you can see the mentality.
They'd printed a proper envelope. I mean, since I published the video, everybody said to me in the comments and have sent me messages saying an HMRC letter always turns up in a brown envelope. You should know that. Well, I didn't know that because I haven't had one before. But it was in a white envelope. But it's little things like that they'd clearly gone to a great extent to print these envelopes and print these letters. It had my personal details. It turned up at my home address with my VAT number on it. So. Where have they got all of this information?
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Did you manage to find out any?
Well, I mean, I did operate the Clever Car Collection from my home for 7 or 8 months, so I suppose it's not out of this world.
But your VAT, I suppose your VAT numbers.
And the VAT numbers on the website, those things are ezy to find.
But it's the technology behind it that they're using as well now. It's it's so advanced. When you look at, say, a company's house as an example, they can use AI and bot trawlers now to just scrape that information, scraping information like you see businesses scraping car ads to a degree. To scrape that kind of information now with AI, say from company's house and all, is easy. Piece of cake for them. The what's sitting behind it is also incredibly advanced. It's big business. Big business.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Right, I'm going to wedge another story in, and I would like to just go back to the big motoring world trial. Very carefully, I will deal with this one. Now, this is the big motoring world case where Peter Waddell, the founder, majority shareholder of that business, has brought action against the firm for unfair dismissal. Its case is currently ongoing in the High Court. We've talked about it gingerly on this podcast, I would say, over the last few weeks. But I just want to talk about this one update that came out this week. And this is news that the big motoring world executive involved in investigating the misconduct claims against Peter Waddell was told that his office had been bugged and his home placed under surveillance. So the High Court heard this during this case. So Tom Clark, he works at the used car supermarket and he sat on the investigation committee which upheld the complaints against Peter Waddell prior to his departure. And it was revealed in court that after that investigation began, Clark received threatening messages from Peter Waddell who suggested that his phone was being tapped. And despite a sweep later revealing that his office and phone, these claims weren't true, this director, Tom Clark, says the incident had left him in absolute shock. This came up in cross-examination from Peter Waddell's barrister, Alan Gorgie KC, on March the 19th. And he said, I've been sent messages from Waddell telling me that he's watching me from my bedroom window. My telephone has been tapped and the office has been bugged. I was in absolute shock, said Tom Clark, and I still am, frankly, at such disgraceful behaviour and such awful messages to receive that has affected me, frankly, for the last 2 years. Now, clearly, this has been denied. It's come up in the court, and they're discussing it. But just shows you the sort of extent that the detail that this case is going into, and just some of the stuff that has been dragged up. Now, it is very, very hard to comment on this case, so I'm not going to, because the hearing is continuing. You can read those stories on our website, including that one and a number of others from both sides. We've covered both sides of this case very, very carefully. I think next week the closing arguments will happen in this case before the judge in the High Court makes a decision on what happens next. So it will be interesting to see what comes out in those closing arguments and what happens as a result of this case. It's hard to comment, Chris, but have you been following the case at all?
Do you know something, James? It's the kind of thing that has fascinated me to a degree. And yes, I have I've followed it and I've read every one. Excuse me. And this is a difficult one. Obviously, I'm not going to comment on the case, but I will comment on him. I think he was on not last year, the year before, but not the last one, the year before, on stage at Car Dealer event, wasn't he?
Car Dealer Live 2024.
two couple ago. Two, yeah. Not for me, really. Not for me as a person. Got a story, like lots of people have. Sad what happened to him when he was younger, but I think there's lots of stories like that, but a little bit crass for me, and a little bit not my cup of tea. I think what I will say as well is after COVID, I think when he'd done his deal, and also when there was lots of people losing jobs and being made redundant and all the rest of it, and he's posting his 10 million yacht all over LinkedIn and showing off and all the rest of it. I thought that was really, really bad taste. I'm all for people being successful and exiting a business and doing well. But I think, gloating and showing off, which is really what it looked like all over LinkedIn, posting your boat. I actually unfollowed him after that. I thought it was really, really poor taste. So I don't know him that well. I don't know him at all, but I think he's got probably a lot to learn, and this will teach him a lot of lessons, I think.
It's as a case, it has really brought the motor industry into very, very sharp focus, and I think everything that's come out has been. It just shows you. I reckon there's a lot of people watching this case who think, well, if all my WhatsApps ever came out, if all my emails ever came out, I'll be in real trouble. And I think it's kind of like, because what they've done, both sides have to disclose everything. And it just absolutely, everything you think was private, anything you ever think is private that you've sent to someone, if it ever gets to the High Court, they have access to everything. And you end up with headlines like this. So there'll probably be a lot of people watching this thinking, thank God that's not me. But anyway, right.
Do you know what's fascinating for me as well, quote me if I'm wrong, James, isn't he still the majority shareholder in that business?
He is still the majority shareholder, yes. Yeah.
So,
64%.
So to be the majority shareholder and be ousted and still have that huge amount of equity, I think that it does show the power of private equity as well, and how.
Can you imagine? If it was your business, I look at it and just think that if this was my business and I was still the majority shareholder and I had no say whatsoever in what other people were doing with what is effectively my business by majority, I don't think I could continue like that. I would find it very hard, and I would probably end up fighting hard to get control again. And I think this is obviously what's happened. It's many other things have happened, but I think at the absolute very basis of this is somebody who majority owns a business, has now no oversight of it whatsoever or control, and that must be very, very painful.
Yeah, no, extremely. I totally agree with that, and in some regards I feel for him, but he has made an awful lot of money out of it. You bring private equity in. Yes, you take. He's probably taken tens of millions of pounds off the table. He's a very wealthy man. He can afford to fight it. But by the same rule, it does show you that if you do the wrong deal, and you don't take the right advice, it can be painful for you in the long run. And I think that's what he's potentially suffering now. In hindsight, it was probably the wrong deal for him because of the kind of person that they are saying he is, if that makes sense. Maybe he should have exited fully or majority and just left a little bit of skin in the game for a future exit. But it does show you, if you do the wrong deal with private equity, it can bring a lot of trouble, even though it can make you incredibly wealthy.
Yeah. Must say, a lot of this is our personal opinion, and the case.
Yeah, personal opinion.
Case is ongoing in the High Court, and if you want to read any of those stories, you can do so on our website. Very difficult to dance around that one, but hopefully we have done it legally and soundly. If not, I'm sure I'll get another solicitor's letter. Right, let's bring.
Why, you've had one already?
I mean, would it shock you to say that both sides have threatened me with court? I mean, it's like it's one of those. I think it's one of those cases that has angered everybody. Anyway, let's bring this podcast to a close, Rebecca.
I should add that we do get these letters not because we've written anything wrong, but because that is the instant thing you get when with big businesses sometimes. They like to send their solicitors.
James, you report it as you see it, right, guys? You report it as you see it.
Legally and soundly, we reported it, Chris.
Yeah.
I'd like to add.
Of course.
It doesn't mean that people like it when it's written.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No.
Anyway, so that's the end of our stories. So, Chris, who do you think had the best stories this week, and who is the winner?
Oh, it's got to be the Peter Waddle case, hasn't it? For me, I think. Yeah.
Oh my word! That
I just think it's fascinating. It's out there. It's big. Everyone's looking. I think.
Nice pun.
To see how it ends. How does it end? I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it's a bit like Dallas in the 80s, isn't it? Or Dynasty or whatever. There's. I think everyone's just looking to see how it ends. Who wins, or are there any winners? Are there any winners or losers in this? I don't know, but I think it's just we're all looking to see where it ends, really, what the result is. I think
Car Dealer will be there to bring you the news, Chris. Excellent.
I'm sure you will.
And thank you for the win. That brings it 6-all, Rebecca. Are you in John's substitute?
Oh, okay.
So
I think we need to keep.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. By the way, sorry about that.
It's fine. We just need to keep a record of how many times Peter Waddell has been the story that's won the podcast.
Yeah, we should probably. Can I just do it? Just before you bring us to a close, can I just do a quick plug? Because yesterday I posted, well, probably people who listen to this podcast already know, but posted another highlights, another best bits from Car Dealer Live 2026. There was some fantastic sessions at that podcast. And I've at that event. So I've created a second podcast of some of those highlights, including the headline speakers, Nicola Dobson from Peugeot, Sohib from Infinity, and Ginny from Electrify, and I've included some of their best bits. So you can go and listen to that. Both of them now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and I think our YouTube channel too.
Yes. What I was going to say is, particularly if you are listening to this just on Apple or Spotify, it's worth going over and watching that one on YouTube, because it's just very interesting to watch. It's good footage live from the show. Yeah,
definitely.
I thought it was one of the best. Not just saying that. I thought as a panel, as talking points, as everything, I thought it was great. We got lots out of it. Me and my team this year. Yeah, it was great.
Loved it, Chris.
Loved it. So well done. Because you know something. These things are. You have to pick and choose now, I think, with the cost of events and, with people working from home and things. I think you sort of like have to pick and choose to your events. And I've been to some bad ones and I would never go again. And I've been to some good ones. But this is, I think you've evolved correctly. I think it's good. Really, really good. Yeah. We've got a world first announcement coming soon.
Oh, yes.
Ooh.
Well, can you when are you going to bring us that news?
In the next few weeks, hopefully. So I might just give you an exclusive. So obviously we did our Sky partnership and our Bliss mobile technology partnership and our DBS direct mail partnership. So we've got a world first outdoor media partnership being announced.
Oh,
excellent.
Yeah.
We've taken over all of Cargiant slots on the tube. I've broken your news.
I'm just going to say a quick thank you to James and to Chris for both being here today. If you want to find out more about any of our stories we've mentioned, do click on the links in the show notes or head over to cardealermagazine.co.uk and scroll to the podcast section. We will be back again next Friday, so don't forget to hit subscribe. And until
Thursday, back next Thursday, because it's Easter.
Oh, yes, well done.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Good Friday.
Until then, goodbye.